Hey folks, today I'm going to be looking at another set of budget, compact underwater spotlights I found on Amazon. The Odepro WD12 and the Odepro ND51. Let's see what they can do. Welcome to another Water Trek 360. This is my fourth installment in my quest for budget underwater spotlights for wreck and night diving. I have one set remaining. Do check out my previous videos on other underwater spotlights. You can see the list in the upper right hand corner. I will provide links for them in the description. Today, we are going to review the Odepro WD12 and the Odepro ND51 that I bought on Amazon. As always, I do not represent any of the companies I review, nor any other manufacturer I may reference. These opinions are my own. If you like these reviews, click subscribe, click like. Let's now compare the capabilities of these inexpensive lights. They are both made out of aluminum. The ND51 indicates aircraft grade. The WD12 is depth rated to 100 meters, the ND51 to 150 meters. They both have a water rating of IP68. They are both relatively compact at 5.5 inches long. The ND51 is wider at the light at 2 1/8 inches versus 1 1/8 inches. And with batteries, weighs in at 11.3 ounces versus 5.5. They both have double O-ring protection. WD12 is drop tested to 1.5 meters and the ND51 to 1 meter. The WD12 takes one 18650 battery with 3000 mAh. The ND51 has one 26650 battery with 5000 mAh. Both have unprotected batteries. The WD12 recharges in a little over 3 hours and the ND51 a little under 3 hours. Both provide a standard charger. The WD12 comes with one with an attached cable and the ND51 one with a Type-C cable. Both show green when fully charged. Literature claims the WD12 can last up to 2 hours on high and 5 hours on low. The ND51 shows 59 minutes on high and 11 hours on low. They both use a button switch. WD12 only has high and low settings with corresponding lumen of 980 and 360. Holding down on the switch in either setting turns on the strobe. The ND51 cycles through high, medium, and low settings with corresponding lumen of 2500, 1000, and 300. Holding down on the button switch at any time turns on the strobe. Neither list a Kelvin nor a CRI. Both can be used on land. Neither mention any battery protection per se. WD12 has a 12-degree beam angle and the ND51 indicates an 18-degree beam angle. Both have an overall spread of roughly 72 degrees or so. The WD12 has a remaining battery power indicator on the switch with green, then red when under 30%, and then flashing red when under 10%. The ND51 has no power indicator. As for accessories, they both come in a box with a lanyard, spare O-rings, a charger, a manual, but neither has a carry case. The WD12 does come with an extra battery. So now look at my water tests. I ran several sync tests. Normally only on the high setting, that's the differentiator for me. The WD12 started to dim around 50 minutes, but stayed green for roughly an hour and 10 minutes. It was only red for 12 minutes when it went to flashing red, but stayed on, finally shutting off at 3 hours and 20 minutes. That was unexpected. Now don't do this with your lights at home, especially with unprotected batteries, but I turned it back on and it ran for another 6 minutes or so before finally shutting off. The ND51, on the other hand, would dim between 50 and 55 minutes, and then around 65 minutes, the light itself started flashing and shut off at 69 minutes. I couldn't get it to turn back on until the batteries were charged. In the pool, the buttons were easy, no issues. You can see the spot beams for both are pretty well defined. The WD12 is listed with the tighter beam, but the ND51 was pretty good too, maybe due to the difference in lumen. The strobes worked fine as advertised. As for the lumen, I did several pool tests, and while the ND51 was a little brighter, it wasn't really as bright as I had anticipated. I've seen this issue with other lights I've tested, not sure why. Maybe because the WD12 seemed brighter than the roughly 1000 lumen it's listed for. The ND51 did maintain the beam tightness as it cycled through the extra lower lumen settings. The Kelvin for both is similar, but clearly the ND51 is a cooler white. In my open water tests, as with other lights, I test in several sites over several days. Normally, my open water tests are in line with my pool tests. The ND51 was an exception. The additional lumen in open water was noticeable. With all the silt in the water and the wider beam of the ND51, it was highlighted by the additional backscatter. I have to say, though, the WD12 beam, to me, was also more prominent than it was in the pool. I don't know. Maybe visual bias, I guess. A trick plays on your mind due to all the silt in the water. As I've mentioned in previous videos, Long Island Sound is a tough place for lights due to the low vis, which is why I prefer a narrow beam under 10 degrees if possible. For the most part, these lights did pretty well, and the comparison was basically a wash. Again, these lights are not for video, they are for night, rec, or low vis diving. So what did I like and dislike? Both are depth rated to at least 100 meters. I like that the WD12 only weighs 5.5 ounces, but it just doesn't have that solid feel compared to other compact lights I tested. They're both under $100. I only paid $50 for the WD12 and $90 for the ND51. The flashing strobes were a positive for both. You don't find those in some other lights. I like that they are button switches that go from high to low and off without having to hold the button to shut it off, and that the highest setting is first. I didn't like the button on the ND51. It's raised pretty high and it's not flush to the body. And most importantly, allows water into the button cavity. You need to make sure you flush this completely with fresh water, especially after use in salt water to prevent any salt deposits and possibly impacting the switch mechanism. I also didn't like that the lights come on every time I inserted newly charged batteries. I have to shut them off once the body is screwed together. It's a nuisance. I didn't like that they didn't have protected batteries, but that's pretty common nowadays. I liked the run times for the WD12. I was surprised by the duration and the overperformance of the beam. Bottom line, WD12, while it wouldn't be my primary light, is a simple basic light for use as a backup on my BC. And for the price, gets a thumbs up. The ND51, on the other hand, while the lumen was fine and the beam was fine, for the extra $40, it didn't run as long, it weighs more, doesn't have a power indicator, and the button retains water. So it gets a, maybe not. My choice, WD12 wins out. Now, your needs may be different than mine, and if so, at these prices, check them out. Well, that's my opinion. Let me know what you think. I still have a couple more lights that I'm reviewing, so watch for those. Anyway, my friends, stay safe in your dive adventures, and remember, go explore, get wet,